Incredible 911 mix-up. A little girl's unexpected call saves her mom in an amazing twist of fate. Emma's eyes sparkled as she sat on the fading blue carpet of their small living room, fingers flying over her tablet's screen. With her fiery red pigtails and a smile that could light up Havenwood, her quiet energy masked the chaos that encroached upon their lives like an invisible fog. Her mother, Sarah, worked long hours at the diner, pouring coffee with an efficiency that belied her inner exhaustion. People came for the warmth, the laughter, and the pancakes, knowing Emma and Sarah by name. Yet, behind those playful banter exchanges lay heavy burdens, late rent notices, looming bills, and an emotional weight that often stole the light from Sarah's eyes. Tonight Sarah was late, and the anxiety twisted in Emma's small stomach. She sensed it was more than typical work fatigue. It was the rare nights when weariness crept into their home, weighing on both their hearts. As the clock ticked relentlessly, she hesitated, glancing between the brightly lit screen and the shadowy hallway. It wasn't just her love for her mother that held her back from calling. A growing dread did. Would the neighbors whisper tales of another missed meal? Would they comment on her mother's struggles, the whispers dancing like fireflies in the night? Emma firmly grasped her tablet, stumbling into a world of bright colors and escaping her thoughts, seeking solace from her unspoken fears. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mid-game, a sudden crash echoed from the kitchen. Emma's heart raced. She rushed to find Sarah sprawled on the floor, breath shallow, panic clawing at her throat. "Mom!" Emma squeaked, the word barely breaking from her trembling lips. Fear clenched her tightly. Seemingly on instinct, she picked up her tablet, hoping to somehow call for help. Her fingers slid across the screen wildly, and in a misguided excitement she tapped the wrong button. To her shock, a voice crackled through the device. 911, what's your emergency? The operator's calmness contrasted starkly with Emma's turmoil. Words jumbled together, chaos spilling from her lips as she struggled to articulate her mother's distress. Instead of help, confusion reigned, and suddenly the familiar blue lights lit their lawn. Shadows gathered. Neighbors peeked through their curtains, curiosity burning in their eyes. Emma clenched her mother's hand, fighting to protect her dignity from the prying gazes, anger flaring at the judgment she sensed. Officer Martinez stepped through the door, his heavy footsteps settling like an unwanted blanket over the living room. In their eyes, he wasn't an ally. He was a representation of their fears and secrets laid bare. And in that moment, with the looming presence of his badge, Emma felt her heart hammering against despair. But she knew, a fire ignited within her. She wouldn't let the gossip suffocate their story. As Sarah stirred, blinking with confusion, Emma gathered herself, her voice shaking but determined. "Stop! You don't know us. You don't know what we've been through." Would this moment define them? She clenched her fists, feeling the weight of judgment press against her, ready to declare their truth to the ears too eager to listen. Fear and love twisted inside Emma as she called out her mother's struggles. Would they understand, or would the pressure of the moment shatter everything they had built together? Her heart ached for resolution, even as uncertainty loomed like a dark shadow, whispering doubt into her thoughts. The air felt electric as she held onto her mother's hand, not just hoping for answers, but demanding that their love wouldn't be overshadowed by the weight of the world outside. Would the truth finally rise above the whispers, or would it remain crushed beneath the judgment? The tension in the room hung like a heavy curtain. Officer Martinez studied the scene, his expression softening as he sensed the raw determination in Emma's voice. She saw the small flicker of understanding in his eyes, but it did little to quell the storm rumbling within her. At that moment, it felt like the weight of her mother's struggles mirrored the growing shadows that lingered at the edges of her consciousness, and she refused to be drowned in them. Just breathe, she urged, trying to ground Sarah's fluttering gaze in her own, even as her thoughts raced. There was so much to say, so much they had kept hidden, the late-night whispers of despair and the creeping dread of not knowing how to make ends meet. How had it come to this? Officer Martinez took a careful step forward, reassessing the situation. "Emma, can you tell me what happened?" he asked, his tone now firm but compassionate. The kindness nestled beneath his authority felt like a lifeline. It ignited a spark in Emma. If she was going to speak her truth, she needed to frame the narrative. Taking a deep breath, she straightened up. All of a sudden, she wasn't just a scared little girl. She was a daughter whose voice mattered. "My mom. She was trying to clean up and she fainted. She's okay, really. I want people to stop talking about us." Sarah, sitting up, looked at her with profound love, tinged with guilt. "Emma, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do," Emma bit back, driven by the need to shield her mother's dignity. "You work so hard, and I don't want them to see you like this. We're doing the best we can." The officer nodded, absorbing her words. There was a moment of silence, an unspoken understanding blossoming within the room. Emma could feel the atmosphere shift, as if the air had thickened with purpose. The quiet pleas of a little girl had turned the floodgates of fear into a stream of brave clarity. "Sometimes people don't understand, Emma." Officer Martinez's voice was low, reverberating with the weight of experience. "But you're doing what you can, and sometimes courage is searching for help when you need it." Emma swallowed hard as the implications sank in. The adults who watched from the sidelines might never comprehend the battles they faced, but perhaps that was okay. It was their life, not a spectacle. She had always felt the whispers swirling around them, but now she understood. She had the power to define her own story. They would not be caricatures of poverty or failures. They were a family, imperfect but resolute. As Sarah leaned against the couch, visibly shaken but grateful, another spark flared in Emma's heart. She realized they needed more than just moments of resilience. They required a plan. The dynamic in their small home could not shift by mere hope. It demanded strategy, and she was determined to create that strategy. "What if we—" she began, feeling momentum surge through her. Ideas started to flow, her mind racing with how to ease the burdens that hovered above them. "We could start meal prepping for the week, and maybe I could help you with your shifts at the diner after school, take orders, or even learn to cook." Sarah's eyes widened, a blend of pride and anxiety radiating from her. "Emma, you don't have to take on so much, sweetie." "No, Mom, this is our chance," Emma replied, her resolve strengthening as adrenaline coursed through her veins. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the chance to unearth their hidden potentials and reclaim their narrative. Just then, a small crowd began to gather outside, quiet whispers reaching their ears. Fear enveloped Emma again, but it was different this time. "We have to go out there," she urged, feeling the tempest fortifying her spirit. "We need to show them who we are." Emma sprinted to the door, determination flooding her senses. The world may have wanted to label them, but she would break that mold, reveal the truth of their lives, and stand tall in hope. As she opened the door, the cool evening air rushed in, clashing against the heat of her excitement. Would they see her, really see her? Would her mother stand beside her, not as an object of pity, but as an embodiment of strength? Before stepping out into the fray, she felt the seed of doubt spiral briefly inside her. But as she turned to look at Sarah, their eyes locked, their hearts synchronized. They were about to push against everything that had held them back. And as she took that step towards the crowd, Emma couldn't help but hear the whisper of their shared history echo in her mind, a mantra of resilience pushing her forward. This is the beginning. Would that step usher in new challenges, or would it unveil their potential in a world that had only ever seen them through the lens of limitations? The crowd before Emma loomed, a blend of familiar faces and strangers, all with eyes filled with curiosity. Her heart raced as she stepped across the threshold, the chill of the air juxtaposing the warmth of her resolve. She was acutely aware of the whispers surrounding them. a cacophony of judgments that could easily shift from empathy to contempt with the slightest provocation. She took a deep breath and grasped her mother's hand tightly, feeling an electric charge pass between them. This was their moment. "Listen up." Emma's voice pierced through the murmurs, shaking with the power of honest intent. "We are not what you think we are. We're not a story of neglect or bad choices. We're just—" "Emma," her mother's low voice interrupted, filled with a mixture of concern and pride. "Be careful." But Emma felt the weight of the world pressing down on her. "No, Mom. Let me." She turned back to the crowd. A quick flash of fear ignited deep in her gut, but her determination was relentless. "We're just doing our best," she continued, her voice strong now. "Just like you. Mom works hard every day. She's not a failure. She's a fighter." The warmth of the evening lingered only in her growing confidence, as if the sun had become her ally instead of an enemy. "So, what if we don't have the perfect home or the perfect life?" She pressed on, her heart pounding in rhythm with her convictions. "That doesn't define us." Each word felt like a stone thrown in a still pond, rippling outwards with the message of resilience. A couple of heads nodded in agreement from the small crowd, but others bore down on her with skeptical expressions. Emma felt the crease of doubt trying to wedge its way in, but she pushed it away. "We are more than our circumstances. I want to help my mom with anything she needs. I want to work hard." Sarah's eyes shimmered as she watched Emma stand firm, the trembling in her hands subsiding to a steady grip on her daughter's shoulder. "Emma, you don't have to—" "No, I want to," Emma interjected, eyes gleaming with fervor. The crowd's gaze shifted from Emma to Sarah, perceiving the struggle written across both women's faces. For the first time, the intensity of scrutiny transformed into empathy. Emma recognized the light of understanding igniting in a few spectators' eyes, and she harnessed it, a fire kindling within her. "What if we organized a community potluck?" Emma pitched to the crowd, her voice now buoyed by an exhilarating blend of awareness and hope. "Help one another instead of judging. Let's share food and stories. We take care of us." A murmur of surprise rippled through the onlookers, and she saw nods begin to form in response, like flowers blooming against resistance. It was a small step, but it was theirs to take, shifting the narrative into one of unity rather than division. "Or maybe we could start a neighborhood skills exchange," she continued, noting how some neighbors began to lean in closer. "I could help with babysitting and tutoring, and you might teach me how to fix things." Confidence surged through her veins, electrifying her senses as she envisioned scenarios where they could be allies instead of adversaries. Unbeknownst to her, a quiet figure at the back of the crowd stepped forward. Emma glanced up, her heart sinking for a moment as she recognized a schoolmate, Jeremy, known for his relentless teasing. But he stood before her now, without malice written on his face, only a cautious interest. "Emma, do you think, could we really work together?" he asked, uncertainty etched in his voice. The question sparked something within her, like the initial turn of a key igniting a dormant engine. This was the critical moment of connection they had all been yearning for, to redefine the narrative together. Yes, we can," she responded, the force of her belief resonating towards every onlooker. They were listening. They were interested. Suddenly, she realized the horizon of change was closer than she had imagined. But as pride swelled in her chest, she felt the nagging tremor of trepidation bordering her euphoric moment. Was she prepared for this newfound responsibility? Could she really lead her community? Her internal questions surfaced, but she resisted the urge to weigh them too heavily. Before she could ponder further, a rustling emerged through the crowd. The intensity shifted again, and the atmosphere thickened with surprise. A voice cut through, raising the stakes of their collective moment and yanking her from her thoughts. "Emma," Officer Martinez called out from the back, his tone rising with urgency. "We need to talk about that call you made." Emma's breath caught in her throat. They had stepped into something far greater than she had anticipated. What had she unleashed? As the crowd began to murmur again, she felt both fear and exhilaration igniting within her once more. A storm of unforeseen challenges beckoned, and she stood on the precipice, ready to dive deeper into the narrative rewriting before her. Emma's heart thudded loudly against her rib cage as Officer Martinez stepped forward, the gravity of his words seeping into the crowd like oil spreading on water. She had never associated her voice calling for help with an authority figure addressing her directly. The whispers ignited once more, a ripple of confusion dancing through the onlookers. What had she done? "Officer, wait," she shouted, her mind racing with the implications. What had she initiated that now seemed to demand police attention? "What do you mean by that call?" "Your call about needing assistance," he clarified, taking a few steps closer, his brow furrowed with concern. "What did you see?" A torrent of emotions surged within her. Fear, pride, confusion, and a burgeoning realization that this was more than just a community gathering. It was a moment that could define her future. Emma hesitated, testing the waters of her response. Did her words hold the power to sway opinions, change perceptions? The crowd had shifted, their gaze now flickering between Emma and the officer. I just wanted to talk about how hard things can get sometimes," she managed, her voice trembling slightly. "Sometimes we feel like we're all alone." "Emma, you made a statement about needing help, and I believe there's more to this," he urged gently, his eyes searching hers. "I'm here to ensure everyone's safe. Did you witness something troubling?" The enormity of the moment settled heavily on her shoulders. What did safe mean in the context she'd just created? She had been so caught up in wanting to inspire change that the potential weight of her words now loomed ominously over her. I meant it in a good way," she stammered, stumbling through her explanation. "We've been through tough times, but we want to make things better. Everyone needs help sometimes, but I didn't mean to alarm anyone." A hum of unease wafted through the spectators as they processed her words. What began as a call for community connection now threatened to unveil vulnerabilities they shared, threading doubt through Emma's newfound confidence. "Clarify for me, Emma," Officer Martinez implored, tension lacing his voice. "Because if you felt unsafe or if something happened at home, we can help." Glimmers of potential fear flickered like shadows behind her resolve, teasing at the corners of her mind. Could she speak up? Would it reflect weakness? Or was it a strength to acknowledge the struggles that could hit anyone? The thought flickered, but she swallowed it down. This was her moment to redefine everything, not just for herself, but for those like her who were often swept under the narrative rug. "We're okay, I promise," she declared, scrutinizing the crowd, searching for a face that reflected her strength. There it was, a nod of understanding passed between her and Jeremy, who stood a step closer. "My mom is strong, we are strong, but we want to work through the struggles everyone seems to hide. We all know what it's like to feel lost or judged." Emma's voice rang out, resonating as a tonic against the skepticism hanging in the air. Did she truly mean that? With a heartbeat thrumming like a drum in her ears, she steadied herself. The murmurs began to shift again, a subtle change from suspicion to identification. They exchanged glances, unearthing fragments of shared experiences tucked deep inside. "Let's take ownership of our difficulties," she continued, her pulse racing fiercely. "Let's make our struggles part of our strength so we can help each other. We can tackle this together." The officer's expression softened, a hint of approval breaking through the earlier tension. Perhaps he grasped the essence of her call, not one of despair, but of unity, empowerment, accountability. Emma could feel the crowd synchronizing with her as she poured herself out. This was no longer just a speech. It was her life's purpose materializing in real time, to guide those who felt cast aside, to show them that they could reclaim their narratives together. Yet, as exhilaration surged through her, another tremor of uncertainty slithered through her thoughts. Could self-realization ignite this much vulnerability in others? Behind the nods of intrigue, she sensed wave-like emotions weaving through the crowd, uncertainty clashing with longing, recognition bumping against hesitation. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted again. Another voice emerged, cutting through her empowering moment with edges sharper than before, the familiar merge into anxiety swirling around her. Emma, is it really safe to talk about these things? A voice rang out from the back. Anna, a former friend turned adversary, who had her own history of judgments. Emma's heart sank, the newcomer ushering back a wave of doubt. Can you really handle the reality of what you're asking for? Anna pressed, her challenge echoing through the crowd. A new battle loomed, one that would not only challenge Emma's courage but also test whether they could confront their truths together. As she stared into the sea of faces, uncertainty interwoven with newfound resolve, she recognized the next pivotal crossroads. The question lingered in the air, like a time bomb waiting to go off. Would her voice continue to navigate this uncharted territory, or had she merely opened a door that would reveal layers of conflict she wasn't ready to face? With every eye upon her, the moment swelled with intensity. The forthcoming decision would reveal whether her fight for connection would bring them closer or push them farther apart. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she grappled with Anna's challenge. The voices in the crowd distorted into a muted hum, drowning out the sound of her heartbeat, which pounded in her ears like a relentless drum. She felt the weight of anticipation settle heavily on her shoulders, and the unwelcome chill of doubt crept back into her thoughts. Is it safe? Anna's words echoed painfully, each syllable deliberate. Suddenly the courage that had surged just moments before felt marred with insecurity. Emma scanned the faces before her, searching desperately for reassurance, but only finding a mosaic of uncertainty. What do you mean? Emma asked, attempting to grasp the thread of her own power amidst the disarray. Anna stepped forward, emboldened by Emma's faltering tone. You want everyone to share their struggles, but talking about it isn't easy, Emma. You know how people can twist words, turn your truth against you. Are you ready for that? Are you prepared to face the knives of judgment? The crowd reaction was palpable. A murmur of unease rippled through the audience as they processed Anna's words. Emma felt their doubt. Was she ready to confront not just her own vulnerabilities but also those of others? The responsibility weighed heavily in the air, thick and suffocating. Do you really want to open this can of worms? Anna pressed, and Emma could see the smirk of satisfaction on her lips. A challenge laced with insidious intent was unfolding, and in that moment, Emma fought the instinct to retreat. Emma's voice wavered as she wrestled with the thought. I want to create a space where we can talk about our realities without fear. She laid the words out tentatively, questioning if they had the strength to support her burgeoning resolve. But what if we don't want to hear the truth? Anna shot back, intensifying the tension in Emma's chest. What if we're comfortable hiding behind our masks because facing reality is too painful? That struck a nerve. Painful truths, masked identities, she was no stranger to either. In those fleeting seconds, Emma began to examine her own fervor for change. Was she bold enough to fully embrace this? Could she withstand the potential fallout? The air buzzed with unresolved tension as Emma collected her thoughts, her mind racing through the threads of shared experiences she had once promised to embrace. The challenge loomed large before her. It was the moment to claim her narrative or watch it slip away. This is not about me versus you, she stated, voice steadying with a newfound clarity. It's about all of us finding our voices. We can choose to hide or we can confront what's really happening, together. I'd rather be ostracized for being honest than coddled for lying. A ripple of surprise surged through the crowd, igniting something deeper. The ripple didn't just reflect Emma's determination, but sparked connections with those who were similarly hesitant to voice their fears. Anna, however, remained unyielding. You think you can just confront everything? What are you going to do when it gets tough, when things don't go your way? It's easier to pretend everything is fine. Emma's chest tightened, caught between the adrenaline of the crowd's shifting energy and the gut-wrenching doubts encircling her heart. Anna's antagonism felt like a relentless storm battering against her fragile resolve. Pretending won't help us grow, Anna, Emma countered, emboldened. It'll keep us trapped. Don't you see? We're all here sharing the same space, and despite our challenges, I feel we need this. I need this. She could feel the tide of eyes shifting again, some flickering with skepticism, while others brightly sparkled like embers kindled by encouragement. Could this allow for the opening she sought, where vulnerability turned into strength? Let's acknowledge our fears together, Emma urged, pointing a finger toward a collective reckoning. Let's challenge these struggles openly and not shrink away from them. What happened to me? What happens to you? There's grace in the struggle. Anna faltered, momentarily disarmed by Emma's passion. But Emma wasn't finished. Yes, it's tough. Yes, it's risky. But what if it leads to something greater? As if the seeds of conviction rooted deeper within her, Emma surveyed the faces around her, grasping the shift. Something in their expressions was changing. So many stood at the edge of fear, ready to leap toward an unknown outcome. Yet the lingering doubt remained like a shadow, whispering something far more insidious. What if opening up led only to pain? Emma, Jeremy called out from the back, summoning her back from the abyss. Can we really risk that pain? Sensing the fragile hope tethered to these words, she needed to navigate this pivotal moment with care. Her next words could either catalyze their collective truth or send them scattering into the safety of silence once more. With the crowd's collective breath held tight, Emma faced both them and Anna, ready to unveil her truths in the hope of forging connections, all while the looming question twisted within her. Was she prepared to confront the reality of potential failure? The stakes had never felt higher, and her answer would decide not just her path, but the future of the voices surrounding her. Emma's eyes narrowed, locking onto Anna's defiant gaze like a hunter focused on its prey. There was no backing down. The fire within her flickered to life, ablaze with a purpose she had only just begun to understand. She could feel the energy of the crowd shift, their breath held collectively, teetering between anticipation and fear. They were uncertain, but something about her conviction ignited a spark of curiosity among them. She pressed on, her voice resonating with newfound strength. Pain is a part of our shared experience. It doesn't have to define us. The words flowed from her, carrying a weight she had long buried under layers of self-doubt. This was her moment, and she could feel the shifting dynamics, a veil lifting before her. Who here feels they're wearing a mask? Emma challenged, scanning the crowd. A few hands hesitated before rising, revealing barely hidden struggles, their apprehensions reflected in the shadows of their eyes. See, we're not alone in our fears. We are a tapestry woven from threads of doubt, heartbreak, and hope. Let's unravel it together. Anna's lips tightened, skepticism radiating from her body language. You really think sharing will help? You'll just expose your weaknesses. You could lose everything. Maybe, Emma countered, refusing to cower. But what if we gain even more? Strength comes from vulnerability, Anna. We should be authentic, not just for ourselves, but for each other. Each phrase clawed at the layers of hesitance, beckoning deeper truths out into the light. The atmosphere shifted again, like a tide rolling toward the shore, as murmurs of agreement rippled through the throng. She sensed a shift, a few nods of acknowledgement, subdued whispers of empathy. It signaled something profound, a willingness to brave the storm of honesty. Every one of us has gone through our own challenges. Speaking out isn't a weakness, it's a powerful act. Who wouldn't want to embrace that? Emma continued, her heart quickening. Doubts, once suffocating, transformed into adrenaline that pushed her forward. This was not merely about her. It was about creating a new legacy for herself and those around her. And yet, within the swell of emotion, fear loomed. What if, driven by this challenge, she opened a door she wasn't ready to face? Was she truly equipped to guide others through the storm she had so often hidden from? Flashes of past failures flickered in her mind, threatening to undermine her momentum. Imagine if we could confront our truths without the burden of judgment. Emma invented a scenario where truths created harmony rather than discord. What if no one here had to feel alone, even in their darkest moments? We could prove we are more than our disappointments. A voice from the back rang out. It was Jeffrey, one of Anna's stalwarts. Sounds great, Emma, but how do you know it won't just get messy? Sharing those stories might only lead to more hurt. That question hit Emma like a jolt of reality, snapping her focus. Yes, it could get messy, but the potential for healing outweighed the risks. She leaned into the uncertainty, recalling her own life experiences filled with discomfort. times when the messiness led to the most significant breakthroughs. "Aren't we already messy?" she shot back, her energy surging. "Life isn't clean-cut, Jeffrey. It's chaotic and unpredictable. But in sharing our stories, we reclaim our histories. We challenge the narrative of fear that keeps us from connecting." The atmosphere thickened, a blend of trepidation and excitement twisted together. She could feel their curiosity coiling like a spring, ready to unravel. Emma glanced back at Anna, fully recognizing the weight of both their challenges. Then, with every ounce of bravery she could muster, she declared, "I won't stand silently by while we hide from what makes us human. Let's exchange stories. Let's find out who we truly are beneath the surface." With that challenge hanging in the air, the crowd shifted once more. A ripple of anticipation now tinged with raw possibility. They were feeling the pull of something deeper, a hunger for connection, for understanding. As murmurs of agreement swept through them, Emma faced her own vulnerability head-on. She postured herself as a bridge, a conduit between fears and strength, but she was entirely aware of the looming precipice before her. What would happen when they did start revealing their truths? What inconceivable challenges lay ahead as they began to dance with their vulnerabilities? The answers remained shrouded in uncertainty as curiosity coiled tightly within her, and as the crowd began to respond, the weight of her role as a facilitator surged to the forefront of her mind. Emma's nerves tingled with anticipation. The moment of raw honesty approached, and with it, the chance for transformation, yet the stakes felt perilously high. Would the unfolding truth lead to a collective awakening or shatter the delicate veil of camaraderie? The suspense hung thick in the air, leaving Emma breathless with both expectation and trepidation, as all eyes turned to her with budding anticipation, hungry for what was coming next. Emma stood there, heart racing, as she felt the collective energy of the crowd wrap around her like a heavy blanket. She could sense the hesitation in the air, the fear clinging to the fragile hope she had started to build. Doubts raced through her mind. Was she truly equipped for the emotional chaos that was about to unfold? The first step into uncharted territory was undeniably daunting. Emma had envisioned a community where vulnerability led to camaraderie, but could she uphold her own ideals when faced with the rawness of others' stories? She pictured the potential fallout, confessions that may trigger more pain than healing or lead to divisions instead of connections. Yet, the glimmer of possibility, of breakthrough, was almost palpable. "All right, who wants to share first?" she asked, purposefully orating each syllable to mask her inner tumult. Silence filled the space, heavy with questions and trepidation. She planted her feet firmly, grounding herself in her own intentions. Wasn't this what she had sought deep within? A chance to connect, to strip away layers of isolation, even if it meant peeling back her own. Uncertainty resurfaced, and she fought back the urge to retract her offer, to retreat into safety. With her hands clasped tightly together, she reminded herself that she was not alone. The room was full of people striving for something more. Perhaps that collective drive could ignite the conversation. Finally, it was a woman named Lisa who broke the silence. I've struggled with addiction for years," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "I thought I had it under control, but it was spiraling and I lost everything. My family, my job. I hit rock bottom." She paused, the weight of her confession heavy in the air, pressing down on everyone present. Emma's heart ached for Lisa. As her story unfolded, she could see the agony etched on Lisa's face, the shame spilling through every word as she spoke of her darkest hours. Emma felt a surge of empathy. It was exactly what she feared might happen, yet the rawness of it compelled her to lean in further. It was painful, yet cathartic, and despite the overwhelming nature of Lisa's journey, there was also strength, an undeniable spark of resilience. Maybe in sharing they could light individual sparks in one another. One by one, people found their voices. A man spoke of a loveless marriage, while another young woman shared a tale of depression that had nearly swallowed her whole. Emma listened intently, crafting her responses carefully, knowing that every word could either encourage or wound. As they spoke, Emma felt the collective weight of their vulnerabilities attune her empathetic ear. She noticed patterns beginning to emerge, a haze of shared pain and masked fears, blending together to reveal a community rife with heartbreak, yet buoyed by hope. Strikingly, these revelations also prompted her to confront her own inner struggles. The memories came flooding back, the moments when she nearly caved under the pressure of expectation, the feelings of inadequacy that haunted her waking hours. Who was she to lead this gathering when she still grappled with her own demons? Why should her voice matter when she was still learning how to wield it? And yet, in that moment of heartfelt sharing, she found clarity. The very act of being vulnerable was a testament to her growth. Each person was revealing their struggles not for the sake of pity, but to foster understanding, connection, and, perhaps most importantly, healing. This was the transformation Emma had yearned for, not only in her peers, but within herself. As another round of confessions drew to a close, Emma prepared to speak again. She felt a swell of determination within. Every story shared tonight is a testament to our strength. We may stumble through the darkness, but every admission lights a path toward healing. Together, we are charting a course through our pain toward something greater. Yet, just as she spoke, Anna interrupted, her arms crossed defiantly. You think sharing these stories will make everything better? What if it just complicates things further? Emma's heart raced at this sudden challenge. Anna's words brought her insecurities roaring back, but she quickly suppressed them with newfound resolve. What if it's the beginning of something transformative? She replied, both excited and scared. Inside, she was again teetering on the edge of vulnerability, faced with the choice of retreating or pressing on. The crowd turned to Anna, curious, waiting for her reaction. Emma knew that the real test was approaching, the moment when conflict shifted into opportunity for growth. How would she respond if Anna refused to engage? But just like that, Emma felt the pulse of the crowd behind her, ready to take the next step into the unknown. What would this new dynamic reveal about the fragile ties they were weaving? Would it strengthen the sense of community or unveil deeper fractures? Emma's resolve fortified. She was ready, yet undeniably anxious, for what would come next. Emma took a deep breath and tried to stabilize her racing thoughts, the weight of Anna's challenge hanging palpably in the air. This wasn't merely about facilitating a conversation. It was a test of her leadership and integrity. Hadn't the very foundation of what she was trying to build relied on confronting discomfort, as painful as it might be? She had invented this space to cultivate healing, not just for others, but for herself. Complicating our emotions is part of the process, Emma said, her voice steadier than she felt inside. But isn't it also in those complications that we find our way to clarity? She sought Anna's gaze, a silent plea for engagement rather than withdrawal. The room was silent, tension thick and electric, as everyone felt the weight of the moment. Anna's expression softened for just a fraction, but her arms remained crossed, guarding against vulnerability. Emma sensed that Anna was ready to push back again, and for the first time, the challenge invigorated her resolve rather than shaking it. You don't have to agree, but we owe it to ourselves to listen, even when it's uncomfortable. The exchange felt like a pivotal moment. It was a delicate balance. More than their individual struggles, everyone present was wrestling with the fear of judgment, the hesitation to expose vulnerabilities, and the uncertainty of potential ripples their stories might create. Emma was all too familiar with those feelings. It dawned on her that she too had to open up, to lead by example. Perhaps I should share some of my own story too, she thought, her pulse quickening at the prospect. Without hesitation, she began. I've spent years hiding parts of myself, convinced that if I shine a light on my own inadequacies, others would see only weakness. The room remained silent, but it was a different kind of silence, one filled with curiosity rather than discomfort. I've struggled with anxiety and self-doubt, often believing I'm not fit to help anyone else when I'm still navigating my own mess. Vulnerability washed over her like a tide, but Emma pressed on, aware of Anna's unwavering gaze. However, I realized that sharing these struggles helps create connections. It's an acknowledgement of our shared humanity. A subtle change occurred. The tension began to dissipate as Emma charged forward with palpable resolve. Let's be honest. We're not here to sugarcoat our lives. We're here to unveil the truth. It's painful, but ultimately liberating. To her surprise, a few heads nodded, and Lisa whispered her support. Exactly. Emma noticed Anna's defensiveness waft like mist, gradually lifting under the warmth of shared stories. With each word, Emma's confidence surged. Each confession transformed the atmosphere, turning a potential conflict into a shared experience of empathetic understanding. The vulnerability she had long feared became a tool of strength. As Emma glanced around the room, she observed listeners leaning forward, engaged and attentive. There was a shift. Participants began to relate more to one another than to just their own stories. It was a messy undercurrent, but Emma felt a sense of solidarity forming in the room, an invisible thread connecting them all through their struggles. Just as Emma believed the tide had turned for their group, Anna suddenly stood up. I still don't believe this will resolve anything. You're still all just sharing wounds. Her voice retains that sharp edge, but the anger felt less directed at Emma and more at the situation, at herself. Emma's eyes narrowed slightly. But what if through sharing those wounds we can start to heal them together? The tension snapped back. It was a moment of reckoning, the opportunity to either deepen the connection they had begun to forge or let it unravel into division. Emma braced herself, poised to navigate this uncharted territory. The restless energy in the air was palpable, crackling with potential for confrontation or connection. What would Anna say next? Would she step forward, or would she retreat further into her guardedness? Emma was ready to confront this unraveling thread of conflict head-on, realizing that sometimes the real healing only begins when the discomfort refuses to shy away. Anna's posture shifted. She stood rigid with uncertainty, her fists clenched at her sides. Emma could see the internal battle raging within her. It was clear now that they had reached a critical juncture, one that might either cultivate resilience or rip open deeper wounds. The air felt heavy, laden with anticipation. Exactly what do you think we're doing here? Anna snapped, her voice brittle. You call it healing, but it feels more like a pity party to me. Emma inhaled sharply, ready for the pushback. She could feel the fight rising in her, but this was about more than defending herself. It was about rooting for the realizations that could emerge in the conflict. I get that it might seem that way now, but maybe the act of sharing is the first step towards something deeper. It's about engagement, not endorsement, she countered deliberately, sensing that Anne's outburst might derive more from fear than malice. Anna's eyes widened, and for a brief moment, her guard lowered. Was it a spark of recognition? Yet she remained tense, the vulnerability Emma had shared lingering in the air like a challenge. You think airing your dirty laundry is brave? What if it just shines a harsher light on the mess we're in? Emma steadied herself. She had to address Anna's fears without dismissing their validity. Sharing isn't meant to be spectacular, it's just honest. It connects us, showing us we're not alone. Anna, I see you. I see the pain behind your anger, she said, her tone shifting to one of understanding rather than confrontation. This recognition of Anna's emotions rather than dismissing them felt crucial. They were in this dynamic together. I'd rather not be seen, Anna murmured, almost to herself. It was the first crack in her armor, a glimmer of the truth hiding beneath her sharp facade. Emma recognized an opportunity, not just to speak, but to listen. Then let's find a way for you to be heard without the fear of judgment. How about you simply express what's inside? No need to layer it with judgment, just the truth. Emma suggested gently. Truth? Anna scoffed, flinching slightly at the prospect. What truth is worth sharing? That I feel lost? That I don't know how to escape my own thoughts? Her voice softened, edged with despair. And sharing those just makes me feel even more exposed. The tension hung between them, an electric current inviting a deeper exploration. Emma felt an urge to amplify the strength of their shared vulnerabilities. What if it's just the starting point? There's courage in revealing what you consider weakness. If you take that leap, who knows what you might find waiting for you on the other side. As Anna processed Emma's words, the room seemed to hold its breath. Emma could see others shifting as well, intrigued and inspired by Anna's moment of doubt. She realized they were all grappling with their realities, an array of unspoken truths that everyone had buried under layers of avoidance. "This is messy," Emma continued, grabbing the moment as it unfolded. "But maybe that's what healing looks like. It's not a straight path. It's filled with detours and complications. Each of us is in the same boat, navigating storms of emotions." A sliver of hope flickered in Anna's expression. "So what does that mean for us? For me?" "If you're willing, it means we explore together," Emma replied, enthralled by the evolution blossoming in the room. "Not just about the past, but how we redefine our identities moving forward, whatever shape that takes." Determination bubbled within Emma. She sensed the shift of energy, a collective willingness to confront their fears. This wasn't about absolutes, but about steps taken, however small. With each heartbeat, she felt the inception of transformation. "What if we tried a different approach?" Emma suggested, her voice ringing with newfound assurance. "What if it's not about sharing wounds, but about seeking light in the shadows? Let's push ourselves beyond these discomforts." As Anna stared at Emma, the hardened exterior began to soften even further. Emma held her breath, realizing she was inching closer to unlocking not just Anna's hesitation, but everyone's hidden potential. Was it possible that this atmosphere of vulnerability might lead them toward healing from their own tumultuous tides? But before Anna could respond, someone in the back called out, "And what if we don't know how to find that light at all?" The question hung in the balance, echoing the rawness still present in the room. Emma's heart raced. They were on the brink of deeper exploration, and the next move could either pave the way for understanding or ensnare them in the darkness they sought to navigate. Emma leaned forward, ready to challenge the next layer her group was willing to peel back. Emma's breath hitched as the question hung in the air, the uncertainty palpable among the crowd. "What if we don't know how to find that light at all?" The words resonated deeply, their truth wrapping around her like a heavy fog challenging her resolve. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. She could feel the weight of hopes resting on her shoulders, the suffocating pressure of expectations threatening to crush her spirit. But Emma knew in that instant that she could either retreat into the shadows or step boldly into the light she sought to ignite. "Not knowing how to find that light is part of the journey," she said, her voice steady yet calm. "All journeys have unknowns, and it's okay to feel lost. But maybe it's in sharing our fears and searching together that we start illuminating paths we didn't know existed." The words came out of her with intention, carrying the fire of hope she wanted to kindle within each person standing before her. The murmurs of uncertainty transformed into contemplative nods. Emma noticed a few faces, their brow furrowed, taking in her words and processing what it meant to seek light in their darkness. "Together, we can explore those shadows," she continued, determination rising within her. "Let's lift the veil of silence that keeps us in loneliness. What if we start sharing not just our stories, but our strategies for navigating through the fog? What worked for you and what didn't? Let's build a map of our experiences." A woman stepped forward, her hands trembled slightly. "I don't have answers," she confessed, her voice cracking. "Just the wish to understand how to keep moving forward. It feels hard to breathe sometimes." "Then let's breathe together," Emma replied, her heart racing. "Let's create a space of safety where we can acknowledge that it's okay not to have it figured out. That's where real growth happens, when we allow ourselves to sit in discomfort and keep searching. Who here is willing to brainstorm ways to find that light amidst the unknown?" One by one, voices began to spring forth, each hesitant yet filled with the singular hope of solidarity. They didn't have concrete solutions, but their willingness to share perspectives began to illuminate Emma's original vision. A community woven together by shared experiences rather than divided by them. As words filled the air, Emma felt a shift inside herself. This was no longer just about her conviction or her need to lead. It had transformed into a shared understanding that everyone carried within a desire to confront their demons together. Amidst the shared tales of avoidance, defeat, and perseverance, she noticed Anna once more. An expression of contemplation danced across her face, an acknowledgement of the layers she had yet to peel away. Emma took a step closer, feeling the need to bridge the distance between them. "Anna," she said gently, "you've challenged us all to think about the hard truths. What if we use this moment to not only reflect, but also evolve together? What steps could we take as a community to not just survive, but to thrive?" At that moment, sparks of realization lit up Anna's expression, and Emma could see that the armor she'd worn was beginning to crack. Anna hesitated. "I don't know how to be vulnerable, but I guess I'm tired of pretending everything is perfect too." There was an openness in her voice that resonated throughout the crowd. Emma felt the collective energy shift as Anna's admission rallied the group in unexpected resilience. "Then let's practice together. Vulnerability doesn't require perfection, it simply asks for honesty," Emma encouraged, her heart swelling with pride. With each shared insight, they cumulatively began to define what healing could look like inside this tapestry they were weaving, a living entity full of cracks and imperfections, yet bursting with the possibility for connection. It no longer felt like Emma was pushing. They were pulling together, each step a collective act of courage. Finally, as the conversation began to flow freely, Emma felt something inside her settle, a sense of liberation. They did not solve all their problems that evening, but as faces lit up with hope and apprehension alike, she recognized that true transformation was occurring, not just on an individual level, but as a community beginning to understand its collective strength. In that moment, nothing felt more satisfying than witnessing the organic blossoming of empowerment among the individuals she had feared would remain separated by their struggles. They were beginning to redefine their narratives, choosing connection over isolation. As they continued to share, Emma realized that her once hidden fears had transformed into fuel for her growth. She stood not just as a girl looking for light, but as a leader, demonstrating the beauty of resilience and collaboration. For the first time, she felt anchored, her heart swelling with pride for not just herself, but for everyone present. As Emma looked into the faces surrounding her, she understood that together they were creating a revitalized community, forged in authenticity that had the potential to persist long after that night. And so she smiled, knowing they had all just taken the most important step towards personal and collective healing. This was the beginning, a true embodiment of strength and unity, guided by vulnerability. If you felt inspired by Emma's journey and relished in the power of personal growth, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and witness more amazing stories of transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these emotional stories thriving. Your thoughts are essential, so comment with your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this heartening journey. Together, let's spread the promise of overcoming hardships and transforming lives.